Sridharam viewers, and welcome to another episode of The Hindu Perspective, a program prepared and presented by the Board of Swaha for the purpose of bringing enlightenment and understanding to the national community about the tenets of Hinduism or Sanatana Dharma. Once again, we have on our panel our distinguished Pandits, Pandit Gyandev Prasad, Senior Member of the Dharmandala Swaha, and Pandit Ishwar Maharaj, the President of Swaha, as well as the Principal of the Swaha Hindu College. At this time, we start with our opening prayer, and this week I'll ask Pandit Gyandev if he lead us off in our opening prayer.
So I'll join. Om Gajanam Bhurganari Sevitam Kapita Jammu Phalasara Bhakshanam Umasutam Shuka Vinashikarakam Namami Vishneshwar Parapankajam. Purja Gajanam Swami ki jai. Tulsi Swaha Mata ki jai.
So thank you, Panditji, for leading us in opening prayer. And once again, we will discuss some of the topics that arose out of previous programs, as well as we address some new topics as we normally do. Now, last week we discussed Sita Jayanti, and our intention really was to discuss some of the social issues that arose out of that occasion that we can see applicable to our society today. As we know, society has changed tremendously from that time to now, but of course, some of the ideas and the ideology would have pursued, and some of the principles would be perennial. So at this time, I would just like to bring up some of the topics and questions persons would have raised. And during the week, of course, there are others who would have raised issues through WhatsApp. And you'll notice on the screen, you see the number 4708103, that you don't have to WhatsApp now. It is not a live program. But of course, when you're looking at the program, if you have questions that you'd like to have discussed on the program, questions that you'd like to have discussed, then just WhatsApp the number 4708103. And we have had a set of questions that are coming in, and we are happy that that interest is there. And of course, we are more than happy to address those questions. So that I'll pass over some of the questions of both Pandits, and some of these things, again, as Pandit Ishwar would have indicated and Pandit Gyandev, some of these things are the views of the individual Pandits, and where that is the case, we are going to say that clearly, that this is our view and not that of the organization, so that we want you to keep those things in mind. So that the first topic that comes out when we spoke about Sita Jayanti was really that issue of Sita being married at a young age. And the scriptures will tell us what the facts are, but you'd hear from different places that Sita may have been 6 years, Sri Ram was 14 years, etc. And I think that that is a good starting point, because that is an area of misconception amongst Hindus in terms of the age of Sita and when that marriage took place and what would have happened in terms of the living arrangements, etc., when Sita was taken back to Ayodhya. So I think that, for such a topic, we'll probably start with our senior Pandit, Pandit Gyandev, if you can lead us off in this discussion.
Thank you, Pandit. I would begin by just mentioning references. We have one Ramayana, we have the Valmiki Ramayana. Notice Valmiki Ramayana is hardly read by anybody because in Sanskrit. And that has more information than the next Ramayana, which is Tulsikrit Ramcharitmanas. Now, in both Ramayana, you'll find references to Sita, the wedding, her age, and so on. But in Valmiki Ramayana, it explicitly states what the situation is. I want to just draw reference to the time we are speaking about. We all know that the Ashwamedh Yajna was done by Sri Ram. And to just draw a big reference is that during that period of time, the Vedic injunctions are followed to the letter of the law. Vedic injunctions are followed. So what we do is look and see what does the Vedas say about marriage. And the Vedas say clearly in this book here, which is a very beautiful book, Grihas Gita, it starts by saying, वेदों और उपनिषदों में मनुष्य के जीवन काल में 100 वर्ष का मान कर. It says, I'll just read translate instead of reading Hindi. It says, according to the Vedas, the Upanishads, they have all indicated that the lifespan of man is 100 years. And this is where the first point of reference is. that we follow the Vedas, those days to the letter of the law. Ashwamedh Yagya is one of the things. The Swayamvar another thing. And the Vedas say there are 4 stages in life. I'll pass on to Parishwar, who can elaborate on the 4th stage of life. And based on this, we'll know when marriage took place. According to Ramayana, Valmiki Ramayana, and Tulsi Das Ramayana also. Now, Valmiki Ramayana is written in such a way that Valmiki was observing as it happened. Tulsi Das is writing as a devotee of Sri Ram who can't see Sri Ram do no wrong. If there was never any wrong, he sees Sri Ram as one thing, a God. So Valmiki Ramayana is taken at a different level, which is actual happenings, and Tulsi Ramayana is taken from a point of view of a devotee. When a devotee is praying to God, he sees God only. So you'll have both diverse perspectives. And it's up to those who understand, those who know the Sanskrit. Many people read Sanskrit translated wrongly. I have a whole set of references here, I'm not going to them, because they explicitly stated. But just bear it in mind. Valmiki Ramayana gives the history. Tulsi Das gives the devotion. And they both say that time it was the Vedic injunction followed to the letter of the law. And the first thing we start with, Panitishwar, is the first stage of life, which determines when a person gets married. Panitji.
Right, Sitaram, and welcome again to our viewers. Yes, so Panagande, definitely in that time, ancient times, or those times, certainly, just as we are expected to follow today, the 4 stages of life, the 4 ashrams, as they're called, we have the brahmachari stage, which is that student stage from birth, let's say in today's society, up to about 17, 18 years, and even it goes beyond now, where all students are expected, or children will go to university, and this age is ever expanding, so that after your first degree, many of you would know now in today's society, having that first degree may not be enough. You do a master's or MPhil, and you continue. But definitely all the way up to teenage years, to what we will term adulthood then, or early adulthood, that will be your brahmachari stage. And then only after that would someone enter the grihast ashram, that grihast stage of life. And that's the householder stage. And that carries through all the way up until, in today's terminology, we will say retirement age, whether 60, 65, by which time you enter the vanpras. And then finally the 4th stage is sannyas stage, where, vanpras, we may say, you have retired, but you're still engaged in certain activities. You may still continue to contribute meaningfully. And if I could use the example of Panagyande, who is sitting here, and I know he wouldn't mind, he has retired as a principal, a school principal, but he still continues to contribute in a very meaningful way as a presenter on this program, and of course as a director of Swaha, as a pundit, as a father, as a grandfather, in so many different ways. So grihast householder stage, and then vanpras, and then finally sannyas stage, where you renounce many of the material things of this world, and perhaps we focus more exclusively on divinity, where you have, in many respects, given up control of many of the material things. So, property, land, business, not that it doesn't belong to you, but you have already started distributing and giving to your children and grandchildren and so on, those who are lucky to have and can do that. So it is well set aside and is beautiful. One point I want to make is that each and every civilization would have had certain systems in place, and certainly our Hindu tradition, or Hindu civilization, which is thousands of years, the most ancient civilization, has put forth these ashram, the child ashram, these 4 stages of life. But then I want to also make the point that there's something called Kulriti, Lokriti, and in different places, certain families, or we may say kingdoms, and certain parts of Bharat Desh or India may have had traditions that are slightly different. So especially North India, South India, and Lokriti also, certain places, certain communities would have had slightly different traditions, and we see that even here in Trinidad and Tobago. But definitely, I want to make one thing clear. As far as my research shows, we can't take everything just literally, especially from Tulsidas Ramayana, and extrapolate and say that Sita Mata was married as a child. That was child marriage. But we have other research that suggests otherwise, as Panagande is saying. Jairat?
Right. So that's a good start to our discussions, and I think that what we have established through what Panagani was saying is a true extrapolation. We know that the time period within which Sita and Sriram would have gotten married would have been in that brahmachari stage, which Pandit you should have explained. And that is the celibate stage, that is stage that you would have sorry, in the Grihasti ashram. The brahmachari stage would have been the stage where both individuals, Sri Ram, Sita, Mata, would have been doing their studies and their preparations, etc., and then would have moved into the Grihasti ashram, which is the marriage stage. And
One thing I
Pandit
want
would
to
have
add
made
to-
the reference. Yes, Pandit, sorry.
I think I would have said up to 18, but it goes all the way up to 24, 25, right? Where you're doing a degree and so on. And there's one thing to note as we talk about brahmachari stage, where it concerns especially Sri Ram. So from my research also, think of the time just before Sita Mata and Sri Ram got married, where Sri Ram and Lakshman went into the forest with Vishwamitra. Reading the scripture and taking it literally, you may think that they spent only a few days with Vishwamitra, but it was much more than that. Ramayana tells us they were trained in the art of warfare. So it's not days, it could have been an extended period, months and even years that they spent under the guidance, first of Guru Vashisht, their guru, that's the Diksha Guru, and then also we may say a Vidya Guru, in this case, who would be Vishwamitra Ji. So it's a period of years that they would have spent. So it isn't a case where they went as a 12-year-old, 13-year-old with Vishwamitra, and immediately, a week after, 2 weeks after, there was a Swayamvar. In my understanding, it was an extended period of training under Guru Vishwamitra. So in other words, Sri Ram definitely was already into young adulthood, and Sita Mata just at the cusp then of that adulthood.
And we are having this discussion again because there has been a lot of misunderstanding even recently, and when I say recently, within the last maybe 10 years or so, the discussions related to the Hindu Marriage Act and the Muslim Marriage Act also, and the age of children or young adults and the getting married and all those things. And of course, religions from the East are always tainted as religions that propagate child marriage. And of course, in India, I'm sure in villages that may be the case, where the entire situation is different. That when a child is born, a girl child is born, really there are no opportunities, and therefore the life may be that you get married, you are born, you get married, and you start a household. There's that domestic part of life. Of course, in the West, life is different, so the rules do not apply. And to take the same brush that we may use to understand what happens in India and to paint what happens in Trinidad and Tobago in our society, that obviously is incorrect. So that, as we continue the discussion, Paningande, I don't know if there's anything else in terms of the scriptural information that you'd like to share with us as we continue this part of the discussion.
Definitely, Panaji. Another thing is that check in all the Vedas, the four Vedas. As you said, they mentioned that in that time they follow the Vedas to the letter law. And Yajurveda specifically has reference to say that a male reaches his youth. And in Tulsidas Ramayana have that also, where Dasharat was telling Vishwamitra, my son has now reached his youth. And in the Yajurveda, it says that a male recognized has reached his youth at age 25. So when Dasharat was referring to Sri Ram, he was around 25 years of age. He told Vishwamitra, my son is about 25 years. I can't send in forest with you. He's too young. He hasn't been exposed yet. And that is where the reference is made. And also Janak refers to both Sita and Ram as in their youth in the wedding ceremony. So that reference comes from the Vedas. Now there's a very important point to be made here. Recently, last Sunday, when Ishwar officiated in a Upanayan Sanskar in Balaram's son-in-law's home, Balaram home, this one, our children got Janeo, but that was here most present. And what is Janeo? The next word for Janeo means is referred to as twice born. And in references in Valmiki Ramayana, Valmiki counts years when you have been born. When you get Janeo, then they say you have now been born officially. You have your physical birth from your mother. I recognize that. Nowadays, we recognize birth date with birth certificate and death certificate and so on. So that the birth date which we're thinking about is not the hermit's birth, the material birth, which in all scriptures, when Gita go back to materialism, that body will go, die and go, but spirituality is what you count. And this kind of implications, Pranjal could take note, we can discuss this sometime in the future. Why we do Bhandara 10 days, 15 days, and so on. Nothing for the body, it's for the spiritual aspect of it. So for Valmiki Ramayana, Valmiki refers to when they got their Janeu Sanskar, the timing. Or in this case, like Sita Mata, the girl, is the Diksha, Guru Diksha, which is at that age. So when they have received a Guru Diksha, the Vedas are very strict about that. If a girl's not initiated, she should not get married. And that is the same thing, girl Guru Diksha, the man Upayan Sanskar. So the counting account of Valmiki Ramayana is done to that. And some people read that and don't understand it. So that when you read and you see the references to 6 years, it was 6 years that elapsed since the Upayan Sanskar. So you add on that. The calculation simple. But the point is made is Valmiki refers to birth as Upayan Sanskar or Guru Diksha. If you're not initiated, my apologies to anybody who's not been initiated, but if you're not initiated, you aren't born yet. You have not been born officially, spiritually. And these books are spiritual books. We're doing spirituality. But that's a basic point. And all these scholars who have done research, because there are many contradictions, people read and don't know. Or some people say 6 years, 7. They said you check the time of initiation or Upayan Sanskar. And those days, now only Brahman get Upayan Sanskar. Only Brahman get Janeu. In those days, everybody, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, the three is Upayan Sanskar. So that's the counting you use. That's a very important point to note. That's the counting we use where when you talk about the age of Sri Ram. And Valmiki Ramayana also this, which even yourself, I must admit, I can't go into that kind of, how you call it? When you look at the stars and positional planets and so on, and those things are counted. What you mentioned there, those things reoccur after how many hundreds and thousands of years and so on, and that gives the age and time also. I don't know the calculation, I must admit, but he make reference to that. So that he doesn't say Sri Ram 10 years or 15 years, he said plans in this constellation, he plans in that constellation, Upayan Sanskar has been done so on so time again. So those are two important things. When Valmiki were mentioned, Upayan Sanskar and Guru Diksha. And that is where we are reborn, and from there we count going forward. Pandit.
Thank you, Pandit, and I think that that's very valuable information, and it definitely puts a different perspective. I will clarify the misunderstanding that, in terms of Hinduism, we believe in child marriage, and of course, Sita Mata was 6 years, thinking that 6 years would be in second year? Is that it, when you enter preschool? At 6 years, primary school, first year, second year, as we would know it in Trinidad and Tobago. That is literally a child who's 5 years and then 1 year more. So that is clarified, and certainly based on what Panagani was saying, and I mean it's a solid argument based on what scriptures present to us, that certainly the age of Sita Mata and Sri Ram, when they got married, would have been of an age that they would have been matured, and of course, would have been suited for that part of life and to start living in that Grihastha ashram. Now, we are speaking about the scriptural part of it, and we are establishing that, child marriage is not something that is associated with Hinduism, at least in the way that persons misunderstand that. And Pandit Ishwar spoke about the ashram system, and the ashram system, of course, is a structure, and in Hinduism, everything is structured. And it's structured for a reason. And I just wanted us to speak a little bit about that based on what we see as the realities in society. So while we know that when we attend school, and of course there are systems, there are laws that will say that a child must attend school until 16 years, Pandit Ishwar, Pandit Gyande, you would be aware of those things more than I am. So there are those laws, those regulations. The extent which is enforced, I cannot say, because I know many students who, or many young persons who do not attend school, parents don't send them, and there are no implications of that. So enforcement is something else, but at least it is written there. The second part of it is that as we look at the value of attending school, having education, we look at what are some of the discussions that took place as it relates to the Hindu Marriage Act. We consider a child, and I believe Swaha would have heard us saying it when that discussion came up. What is a child? And anyone below 18 years would have been considered a child. All of that were the discussions we had. So that I'll just ask maybe Pandit Ishwar, firstly, in terms of what we observe, because you all are in the school system, while we may define that a certain age or a certain age range is supposed to be for education, self-development, we are seeing instances of younger children engaging in sexual relationship, getting pregnant, dropping out of school, getting married, even if it be common law marriage, and all of those things, how that impacts upon an individual, and what may be some of the things that we can do to try to change that behavior, whether it be we can reach out to parents, to NPOs, to civil society organizations. But really, what can we do to try to curb that trend that we are seeing, that social trend, where at a younger age, we are finding that our children, while they're in the stage of life that they're supposed to be focusing on self-development, they are really compromising that to engage in other activities. So, Panadishwar?
Yeah. No, definitely, Panajaidat. This is a problem that we have been seeing. Remember, in Trinidad and Tobago, children must be in school up to the age before it was a ridiculously low age, 12 years, 5 to 12. Then it was extended. Now up to the age of 17, children are expected to be in school. And up to 18, we know we'll consider anyone under 18 a child. But Panaji is right, and I'm sure this is something we have all observed. The maturity or the perceived maturity of children, where at a very young age, individuals are engaging in acts that we believe that certainly acts and reading material and looking at material that should be restricted only for the grihast or householder stage and onwards. And I go back to what Panagande was saying, and I just want to say, Panagande, I agree 100% with Panagande's assessment of the scriptural injunctions and the scriptural references, rather. And for those, because something that, as he was talking, I'm calculating in my mind. Upanaya and Sanskar for Kshatriyas would have been done at around the age of 11. Brahmanas earlier, at around 8. So in effect, Sita Mata would have been, let's say, 6 and 11, 17 years. Minimum should have been 17 years, right, Panajaidat? Which is at the time where we are saying just after a child is supposed to be in school. Even today we are saying this. And then Sri Ram would have been somewhere around 24, 25. Close to that, which we are saying, one enters the grihas. So at that period, one enters the grihas ashram. And if I go try to find any scriptural reference in Sanatan Dharma where children are married, yes, we would have heard of child marriages in India and here in Trinidad too. But in our scriptures, you'll scarcely find, and I can't think of any offhand, where individuals or scriptures describe child marriage, meaning at a very early age, 12 years, 13 years, and even younger, right? So what our children are engaged in, and we are talking about via social media, videos, sharing, Panajayda, Panagande, onto our viewers, it will shock you to know that we have seen it. And I'm not saying necessarily in Swa Hindu College, but we know these things are being shared. Children now share everything via social media. So even pictures of themselves, videos of themselves and others are being shared. And there are many schools that have to deal with that. Even at our school, we would have had to deal with instances of misuse of technology, abuse of technology, and inappropriate material being shared. It's no secret because these things happen. And I'm saying probably in the majority of schools, we have issues like this. And what systems are there? I'm saying parental involvement in many cases is not as it should be. But then who we are there as principal, as teachers to look after children during the day from 8 to 2:30 or 8:30 to 3. But who looks at them when they get home? It should be the parent, right? And who pulls up on the parent? Who has the responsibility now to, look at these parents and ensure who polices the parents, if I could use that term, at home to make sure that they're doing their part to ensure that the children are supervised properly. So the teachers, and this is why the role of a teacher, and I want to pay tribute to our teachers, right, to our pundits here. It's a thankless job. It's a job that is unbelievable. The amount of work that a teacher has to do to just monitor, and even when you're home, the children that you may come across certain things on Facebook and it shocks you on social media, and you spring into action to try to assist that child. But more and more, we are seeing videos, pictures, comments being shared, acts, even acts that children are engaged in, which I don't want to pollute the program by talking about. And I'm saying that there are no proper systems. We have the Children's Act in place. We have, other than the Children's Act, there's the Children's Authority Act. And there's also the Sexual Offences Act. And all of these speak to various stipulations and regulations that govern all of us here that we are to abide by. And I'm saying that there are abuses that are taking place right in front of us, and there are adults turning a blind eye to some of these things. There's a lot more, Panajay, that I think I may have digressed a little bit. But the point is, I do not believe there are proper systems. And I know I said this before in a previous program. I'll give one example. Every school should have a school social worker and a guidance counselor or guidance officer. That's not the case. You have very few. So very few people trained, or whether there are many trained, but very few being hired. And then apart from the school, is it that these things happen during school time? No, they happen all different time, all into the night. In every community, whether it's in community center, whether it's in the MP office, they should have certain individuals who are charged with that responsibility to also look after the upkeep and regulate what is taking place with the children in our country. And I'm saying there's not enough. It's not happening. So a lot more has to be done by the government of the day.
Yes, and before I pass over to Panagyan, just a comment, Panadisha, I don't think it's digressing, and even if it's at least tangential, and it's important to discuss, because it all ties back to the whole idea that Hinduism has come up with a structure of the ashram system that says that certain parts of your life you are supposed to focus on certain activities. In the brahmachari stage, a strong life. And many times what you notice is that persons who engage in these type of activities, they drop out of school. If you drop out of school, you don't have an education, you get pregnant, you have a child, then you're unable to take care of that child. And then in certain communities, that just becomes a vicious cycle. And all of the pundits here, you can attest to that. We can all attest to that because we see these things and we counsel persons who are in this situation. And really, that is like, it's a dark shadow, and it leads to financial, domestic violence, financial violence. It leads to frustration when someone may decide, out of feelings of love and all of those things at a young age, when you're not mature enough to understand that you start to live together, then you have an extended family. You don't have the resources to take care of that. And that frustration is what leads sometimes to domestic violence. It may even lead to murders and all of that. And sometimes we say things a little raw in the program, maybe some of us more than others here, but sometimes that shock is what we need to really understand the dangers that we put ourselves in. And recently, Pandit Ishwar Panagyan, they would have seen in the media, there's this whole ring of sexual predators that are preying on these young children. And unfortunately, maybe the parents of these children, they have grown up in a generation where they do not really understand the implications of these things. So they'll give their children phone, give them all of the time, not understanding that they may be taking out, engaging in lascivious behavior over the phone, taking off pictures and maybe revealing and all of that. having discussions with persons in different parts of the world, different parts of the
Yeah.
country, arranging to meet and all of that. And, we are seeing an increase in child trafficking, human trafficking in terms of sex labor and all of those things. And really, all of these things start from that point where persons are exposed and they expose themselves, and children do not have that maturity to understand what they are doing. And if parents are not the ones to guide that and have keep their finger upon that, then the situation is going to be worse. And unfortunately, yes, Panditji.
Sorry,
Yes, go
there's
ahead.
one thing I wanted to add. I'll say it because we may move on and not mention it. And it leads directly into what you're saying. One of the big issues we have is sometimes parents are aware, uncles, aunts are aware. And you know why? Sometimes the perpetrators of these acts against or abuses against our children, maybe an aunt, uncle, stepfather, stepmother too. And the family turns a blind eye. Because why? The lady is living with father may have left and she's living with another gentleman. So the child has a stepfather. Little girl has a stepfather. And she doesn't want to lose that. You know why? That is her, financial support comes from that individual. So knowing what the child goes through is not that the mother may not be aggrieved about it, but they choose to deal with it in their own way. Meanwhile, the children are suffering and it all spirals downward. That child grows up with so many issues and may themselves become perpetrators. We hope not, but facing that kind of abuse, they grow up with a different thinking. So I'm saying, if anyone, and we as the pundits of Swaha, if anyone has knowledge of abuse being committed, perpetrated against any of our children or anyone in society, is your bounden duty to report it, or at least encourage those that have the ability to do so or are charged with responsibility to do so, let them report it. And I remind you, all of us as responsible adults, teachers definitely have something that's called duty of care. You're in a position of trust, especially during the day. So if something becomes known to us, we are made aware, we have a duty to report. As pundits also, if we realize a child is being abused and no one reports it, we will put measures in place and make sure that it's reported, right? I'm saying that people must stop turning a blind eye to acts of indiscretion and criminal acts, abuse being perpetrated against our children, and just let it go because you are worried about what the family will say, what the community and what the neighbors will say. Panajay, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And Panagyandev, we'll ask if you have anything you would like to contribute to this part of the discussions.
Yes, definitely. I'll just add to the experiences of our lives as teachers. I'm not going to call it the school nor the children name and so on. But I had a potential mention about economic factors. The mother may oversee something and let it go. I know directly a case in my situation where the mother came to me. We had punish do counseling. When I saw the lady, I remember her from school because I know she came to research and so on, right? She was just 13 or 14 years. She came, she asked me, I said, what's the problem? I know, let her know I recognize her. She had a daughter who leaves school and go and have personal relations with men all over the place. Now I know she's talking about the girl because I know she's absent regularly in school. So I asked her, I said, why does she do it? She said, people tell her, Zobia. Somebody do she that. So some parents have that kind of stupid mentality that somebody do her that. All the time is bad friends, lack of supervision, bad company, the area she lives in, and the child do whatever she wants, but the mother's being told that is Obia. Somebody did child that bad. I'm going to deal with that, Pranjay. I directed the program, you may have that for another time, where the kind of situations are all over the world, what the kind of practice people have concerning these sexual relationships and so on, what people do, about when they had AIDS, how to get rid of AIDS, how to get rid of monkeypox. The kind of foolishness here all over the world. But I'll come back to the point. Why some of these children are like that? As Ishwar said, economic factors, next one is obia, or bad advice from people and friends. Now I just want to mention, because we are speaking about children engaged in these activities. And You may ask, what was Genesis? How come we have this we don't call it, people call us Hindus, we practice child marriage. How that started? Now you all know the story about Tulsidas, where he changed a girl to a boy. When two parents had trying to marry together. Two of them had girls. In this day and age, was no problem, right? When in those times, that wasn't acceptable. So they had big war. What happened? When he king most of the boy, he hid it. So when the time came for marriageable age, but this is history and it's mentioned, when the time came for marriageable age, they couldn't marry because two were girls. And that was around 25, 20, 50, whatever it was. Their marriageable age, acceptable at that time. Until they has changed the girl to a boy. So this is one of the factors which started genesis of child marriage. Because of people's stupidity. Two kings decided they're going to get children married before the children even born. Now also we have people who do things which are really, really kind of, way far. You can't even imagine these kind of things. The next thing is, in India, there are so many different practices, as Panishwar mentioned. We can't mention all. What man does, he is right to whatever he wants to do. And in India, there is the perception also that child is a burden. So sometimes we know that girl, just why find out the gender of the child before is illegal in India. If you know gender of the child, I might kill the child before. Abortion will be very rampant. So these things, the practice of people. And then added to that, is the fact that what happens, India has been invaded. I think no other country has been invaded like in India. India was under foreign rule for hundreds of years, if not thousands. The Mughals, the British, the Portuguese, the French, even Alexander the Great invaded India. Genghis Khan also tried to go in India. So many people invaded India. So what happened? To protect their children, they married them at a young age. And in those days, people don't mind they were evil, but had certain values. When a Hindu child married and I put his sindoor, I used to had questions asked. Should a woman whose husband has died, she'll wear sindoor? We'll do that. We'll deal with that maybe later. But when a child puts sindoor, at least don't mind do evil and attacking. They recognize a married child and do not take advantage of them. So the invasion was one of them. And then we take it from India to Trinidad. Historically, I did my thesis on that. And you can check it in the archives. They're bringing people to work here in the Greek Canefield Indians. They bring people to lime hunting here. They bring to work. So who will bring more to work? Mostly men came. So there's a shortage of women. There are serious problems in Trinidad. So when the Hindu women came to Trinidad to work, when they have the first child, madam one time somebody, that they can't get men. Men was a shortage. There's a serious shortage of men in Trinidad, Hindu men. So that was another factor why child marriage came up in Trinidad. Because in India, they had something called the Sharda Act, which banned child marriage. But Trinidad had no act. They didn't even have a marriage act. So anything had taken place. So these are some of the genesis, some of the factors which caused child marriage in India and in Trinidad. Of course, I don't happen now. Now I think it's worse. They're not getting married, but as you said, Panjay, that they're involved in personal relationships which are detrimental to their benefit and future. So that means what they done married in, because marriage is a what? Then another thing, when you go to the marriage, Paditi, the thing on marriage, what is marriage about and why people have marriage? For having children, to protect the races. So that all these things are factors which cause child marriage. And there are many other factors, but they are major ones.
Yes, so I think that's an excellent perspective there again, Pandit Gyandev. And what really, I mean, is being said in, if I could just express it in a succinct way, is that this child marriage really came about because of social factors, the need for continuity of the society, as well as economic factors, but really not grounded in Hinduism. So I think that so far we have established that this idea of child marriage, yes, it is a reality, but it was due to other factors, but it is grounded in Hinduism. It is not sanctioned by scriptures. However, because it may have started in India, it is practiced among persons of Indian origin, then automatically by association, persons associate Indian with Hindus. And I mean, Hinduism goes beyond any particular, nationality. And I think that the discussions today would have definitely clarified those things. And then, of course, he went into discussion about the ashram system and the explanation as to why, Grihasti ashram, beyond 20, 25 or so, when a person has already established themselves and have a strong foundation for building their lives. Now, I want to move on to another point that would have come out of what Pandit Gyandev and Pandit Ishwar said. But before I do that, just to make one more point that, and I don't know, both Pandits may observe this, that we are noticing that even in our own temples, during our ceremonies, this idea of, the use of devices and phones, it is infiltrating itself into the temple system, so that even persons that attend temple and we, even regulars, and this is not a criticism, but we need to speak about the realities so that persons will understand that even see these persons engaging in, activities that is, unsanctioned, the pictures sometimes that are posted, the activities that are done, sometimes the words and the comments that we see, that it reveals something about the individual that should not be put out in public. So sometimes you see persons put in rude, vulgar comments, expletives, etc. And it's just a piece of advice to those persons, especially within our organization and the Hindu community, that we have to set an example for others. And whatever you put out there, whatever is, on the cloud, on the internet, etc., it is there forever. So that you have your children will grow to see that. Your children will be, as you put something live, your children will see that. And of course, whatever you do, your children will emulate. So if you're engaging in a negative behavior, your children are going to do the same. So as Panditji rightly mentioned, Pandit Ishwar, there's so much that the school can do. There's so much that the temples can do. But of course, ultimately, that responsibility lies on the parents to ensure that you instill the right values in your children. Now, Pandit Gyandev, you mentioned, the idea of arranged marriages, and you said that, when there was an invasion, that parents would marry our children to other children. And you also mentioned there's the age-old practice where one family or king would promise their child to another king before they're even born. And, in this situation here, when you spoke about Sita Jayanti, we spoke a little bit about the Swayamvar ceremony, which in itself is an arranged marriage. It may not be the right term, but there are a lot of similarities in that. And I wanted to use part of the program first to have some discussion on that. What exactly was a Swayamvar, and how does that align with practices that we see taking place in our society today? Is it that Sita had to marry someone? What exactly is an arranged marriage? And how does the Swayamvar, what are the similarities and differences between the Swayamvar and what we know to be an arranged marriage? So any of the pundits can begin. Any pundit, yes. Maybe Pandit, you could. Yeah.
Let's go shortly and pass on Parishar. The Swayamvar was a very futuristic thinking act. To explain Swayamvar, it means I am the father, and I have a right to help my daughter make correct decisions. So the Swayamvar is where the king, the father, will say, I want to get my daughter married. And he invited those kings he thought were of the proper caliber to marry his daughter. He likes invitations to them. And they'll come there. Not say even Ravan was there. And in that a very beautiful part of Ramayana also, Janak had mentioned about the age of Sita, when nobody could break the bow. It does mention Valmiki Ramayana. She has a marriageable age, going to enter the second stage in life, and she's going to remain unmarried. It will be a state of my life. Any father who can't get his daughter married at that stage, to get to the second stage, is a stain on his life. Valmiki Ramayana has written. So I am the father. I invite those I think are proper from with maybe 300, 500, how many kings I think are suitable for my daughter. So I have a say in her life. Now the final say that her. So she takes the mala and there's something called. So when people talk about when you're marrying somebody, those study looks. I don't believe that. Looks at the first thing I look at, right? So the Swayambar is so futuristic. He said, "Father, give her a range." The girl made the final decision. She walk about and she looks and see the king looking handsome. She looking, and there's an incident about that also, where Bhagwan Shankar sent two fellas who look like demons. Or Sita saw look like monkeys, as a matter of fact. Because of that next story, Panjay, that you could elaborate that some other time. So that when she saw people like monkeys, she turned away. She got one next king. The king looking too tall, too short, too fat, the mustache too big, mushak on all the chest and thing. So all kind of foolish thing they describe in Valmiki Ramayana. That Sita had to choose somebody who was her liking. And fortunately, she saw Sri Ram before. So she was looking to see if Sri Ram was there. So when she saw Sri Ram, she said, yes, this is the one. So the Swayambar is where the father and the father have a right to want to send my daughter to a certain university, our right to send my daughter to a certain school, to give her certain clothes to wear, to maintain her, our right also to decide her future in marriage life. And that was Swayambar about. It's something very futuristic, which was practiced thousands of years ago. I think we should get back to Swayambar system, where girls go and choose. Like father invite those special people. It's very difficult, but it's just a matter of the practices. It's very futuristic. So as far as we are concerned, Swayambar is not arranged marriage. Swayambar is giving your daughter a wit to choose from to the right, and the final decision is the girl one. Sita put the mala over Sri Ram's neck. She made her choice, and that was the marriage was sealed. Pretty sure.
Yeah, I want to agree with Panagandeo. So definitely the whole premise of the Swayamvar is, as Panagandeo mentioned, where the father, the King Raja Janak in this case, would have selected those individuals who would have welcomed all the eligible bachelors, as it were, right? But individuals who came from a certain background, who had particular training, in other words, were well prepared to take care of his daughter, and also would have come from the right lineage also, because that would have been important for him as a king, as a leader. So politically, economically, socially, all the conditions would have been right for everyone there, including Ravan, we may say. Now, Ravan would have probably fit himself in, but he would have come there as a leader also, as a king. And someone who others may look at and say was most eligible then to also enter the contest, the Swayamvar. And I agree with Panagandeo, yes, there must be some attraction. There must be some initial attraction there for the bride, bride-to-be, in the case of Sita Mata, before placing the mala around the individual that she selects. But I want to bring it even down to our modern time. I don't know if our esteemed pundits here and certainly our viewers, now this is on IETV, so I'm advocating that you watch IETV. But those who look at Netflix, one of the most popular shows now is something called Indian Matchmaking, where professionals from all over the world, they hire this expert. I won't call her name, but she's from Mumbai, and she goes all over US, Dubai, Canada, England, and India, of course. Soon, I won't doubt you'll see her, the film part of an episode in Trinidad. It may be coming. And these are all professionals, in some cases, very wealthy people, individuals who are highly educated, doctors, lawyers, engineers, people doing their PhD and so on. And they are searching for the right bride or groom for their children. So parents are involved, the children have given consent, they're involved. And what does she do? There's a parade of individuals in a way. She presents information, biodata on different people. How is that different to what took place thousands of years ago? It's just the system has changed. They now use social media, the internet, and information is presented. The groom or to-be or the bride-to-be looks at it, she assesses, and then they meet. So it is a sort of an arranged marriage, but an abridged, not a bridge, but how to put it, a blended or hybrid approach where you're offering opportunities for people to meet, and then you check to see if something clicks then, right? So there's some spark between them. So it is not a hard and fast arranged marriage where this is two people, but you offer opportunities. And I want to bring it even closer home to our pundits right here. And to all of us, pundits of Swaha, and many of you in your own communities and in your families, Who has not tried to set up someone or bring two people together? And why you do that? Because you notice certain things, certain areas of commonality. It could be lineage, it could be religion, it could be temperament, appearance too. All these different things are taken into account. Individuals help them. You may even coerce them to meet. But once you believe, and those who are righteous in their thinking, and those who are educated enough, and so we're talking about the pundits and the elders in society, and those who are righteous, of course, you encourage them to meet. And if something clicks, if they're happy, of course, marriage can take place. So this happened thousands of years ago. It's so popular that in the West it is catching on. They're doing what India did, and it's continuing in Trinidad here. The pundits do it. The wives of the pundits also sometimes assist with that, right? And in every community, in every temple, I'm sure the pundits would agree. There's some, generally some lady, right? Some Didi who takes a liking to helping people come together like that, and nothing is wrong with that, because our young people need it, because they're struggling on their own. They don't know who they could trust, so we have to help them. Want to share that? Yeah.
Yes, and I think that the key factor is that there has to be choice and certain
Yeah.
conditions that are met. So we speak about the breaking of the bow, but the condition was not that the bow needed to be broken. That was just an outcome. So
Yeah.
if, for example, you had 1,000 kings, a 1,000 kings would have lifted the bow. Out of those qualified 1,000, that becomes like the shortlist. Then
Yeah.
Sita Ma would have chosen the one I should have desired amongst those. But as Panditji mentioned, all of us at some point in time would have made an introduction. We'd have said, okay, there's somebody I think is good for you. Pandit Ishwar can tell you, when I met Pandit Ishwar at university, right? I always say that he's the only person I met outside of my own family who's very similar to me. Us, same background, same lineage, practicing Pandit and all of that. I have some girl cousins. I don't have any sisters, so I consider my girl cousins like my own sisters. And I felt that, maybe an introduction would be in order. I introduced them, and, he and Amika, well, the click was there. And the parents were fine because they knew his father very well, very respected Pandit before he passed on. And, even one day I remember Pandit Ishwar, when we left UE and we went to City Mall to Lime, and it so happened that Pandit Baram and his daughter was there, and Auntie Nali, and it felt that was a setup thing that we organized that, which we didn't. That was absolutely coincidental. Those things are just, out of all of that. And, at the end of the day, it would have been the choice of my cousin. There was nothing forced upon her. And that is the case with many other. I can, for myself, I can recall at least 10 instances where I would have introduced persons and they are living a happy life now. And that is really the same situation. But it comes down to the idea that as parents, and children need to understand that as parents, your parent will know certain things. They will have certain life experiences. As a child that you may see attraction alone. You may feel connection. That is understandable. Sometimes those things are just hormones. But you need to understand that they are more to life than that. And that's why you go by the pundit to check Patra and all of those things to ensure that qualities are matching, to see if you may experience certain obstacles in life, so you know how to deal with those things as we move on. But arranged marriage, as we know it from some social situations where children are promised to children, that has no grounding in Hinduism, and that is not part of Hinduism. What Hinduism says is that a parent has a input in the life of a child by determining these are the parameters within which you choose. So there's a compromise on every side, and within that pool of qualified suitors, that you choose someone who you may find that connection with, and that ensures that persons can live well. And we see many cases of individuals, they choose someone, they go against their parents, against good advice, and they may live happy for a year or so, and then things start to fall apart. Because the right things weren't considered. And of course, arranged marriages ensure that everyone who has value in their life, who has experience, they have an input in your happiness. So, these were two of the outstanding topics of discussion that came out of last week's Sita Jendi discussion. I think that We had some wonderful discussions, and this has been very useful. And I'm sure it would have brought some understanding as it relates to the misunderstanding that is associated with Hinduism. That sometimes we take a bad rap because of these things. We have about 5 minutes remaining, and there's just one point I wanted to ask both panelists to comment on briefly. Again, coming out of the Sita Swayamvar, and preceding the Swayamvar was this situation where she saw Sri Ram saw Sita Ma, and they both felt that connection. And Sri Ram knew this was something divine, because in Tulsi Ramayana, at least, it said that, no one from the Raghukul race would ever look at someone else's wife with any desire. So he knew that this was not the case, the way that he felt. But Sita Ma also felt that, that love and that longing for Sri Ram. She went to the temple and she prayed to Gauri Mata. And of course, we all know the katha where the mala fell around her neck and words emanated from that murti. And, both pandits, if we can just share a little bit on, that idea of murtis and spirituality and blessing and how those things manifest in our lives, so that, devotees can understand the value of praying and having faith in our murtis, and that they're not just, what Panaganda would describe as a pratima or an idol.
Let me just...
So Panaganda, you can go to you first.
Yes, add quickly. Let me compliment Panchayat. So if you need to get him married, you can contact him. He'll make a good connection for you all. So well done. But the point that you're making is that Ram and Sita came together because of divine intervention. And Sri Ram got the blessing of his guru. The guru sanctioned it. Sita got the blessings of Parvati Ma, divinity. So when divinity and the guru sanction a relationship, it must come to fruition. And that may apply to young couples, apply that today to their lives. Make sure it's sanctioned by spiritualists and the temples and the spiritual dependents around you. Panjishwar?
Right. I want to say that I agree, of course, with Panagande or Panajai, that I mean that the whole idea of Murti worship extremely important, and this is a fundamental feature of Sanatana Dharma, of Hinduism. When you do your worship, you worship as, we often put it, you worship the ideal and the idol. So you say it's an idol, it's an image, it's stone, it's brass, whatever, but you're actually worshiping that divinity and using that medium to help you communicate better and help you focus better. But what I want to leave with our viewers, Murti worship is important. So Sita Mata, sometimes we hear you don't need to ask for anything. You don't need to say what your problem is. And generally that is the case. But if you are of marriageable age or you are getting to that age, what is wrong with praying and saying, using verses, even that same prayer, right? Panajaya Panagandeo, Jai Jai Girivar Raj Kishori, Jai Mahesh Mukachandra Chakori, that same prayer that was used by Sita Mata, those verses in worship in Gauri Mata, let your daughters chant it, let your sons use it as they worship Devi Ma for that blessing. So I firmly believe that worshiping using these using our murtis and following that particular format will have merit, tremendous merit, and will bear fruit for our children, for young people.
Thank you, Pandit. And, on a closing note also, what I always recommend the persons is that, before you jump into a relationship, go check the patra. After 2 years of being together and all of that, persons come to check. And my question is always, if I tell you it doesn't work out now, will it make you not get married? And the answer is always no, right? So sometimes doing that is just ticking a box. It makes more sense to find out these things before you get so intimately involved with someone that, checking advice, checking patra and all of those things really is just ticking a box. It doesn't make any sense. So that all of this information is shared. And again, we invite you to view us on ITV programs. And of course, next week, to join us for a new episode of The Hindu Perspective. And we just joined with a short closing prayer. Om Asatoma Sadgamaya, Om Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Om Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya, Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Bole Shri Swaha Mata Ki Jai.